Now, getting back to the Austrian school, I think most of us in here know what I'm talking about, but just in case you don't, this is a school of economic thought that is the oldest continuously existing one in the world. It numbers among its members Ludwig von Mises, F.A. Hayek, and Murray Rothbard, and then older people like Karl Menger and Eugen von Bombawerk. Now, at the Mises Institute, we even have, this is how dorky some of us are, we actually produce T-shirts with economists on them. And I'm not kidding you, I have an Eugen von Bombawerk T-shirt. This is not a joke, all right? Oh, good, let's hear it for Bombawerk. Good man. Great capital theorist, right. Well, the Austrian school's been getting a lot of interest lately because people who belong to it or influenced by it seem to have been the ones who had the most clue about what was about to happen. Same thing in the 1990s when everybody told us, oh, it's a new era. You know, in fact, even Alan Greenspan said, in this era, booms don't have to be followed by busts. Oh, come on, Alan, even you have to know, come on. Or in the 1920s, we had people telling us this is a new era because we've got the experts engaged in scientific management of the money supply, so we'll never have a downturn ever again. Irving Fisher, who's considered to be the godfather of modern mainstream economics, told us in September 1929, stocks have reached a permanently high plateau. It was Hayek and Mises who said in 1928 and 1929, no, a crash is coming. You cannot legislate or inflate away the business cycle. You can, in fact, inflate the business cycle into existence, and that's, in fact, what happened. Well, it's the Austrians who are the odd ducks who are predicting these things, and once in a while, people listen and say, wait a minute, I wonder why they predicted this. Now, every time they predict something, it's inevitably followed by the media saying, well, no one could have seen this coming. And, you know, it's like we're all standing here, right? It's not like we do exist, right? Like we're on this planet. We do have a paper trail of writing, but that's part of living in an Orwellian society. The people who say things different from what the regime wants you to think don't exist at all. No one could have predicted this, citizen. And you say, but wait a minute, there was Peter Schiff, for example, there was Ron Paul. Citizen, no one could have predicted this. So this is why there's a lot of interest in the Austrian school. But because of that, they're also increasing attacks on the school by people who, shall we say, have not been staying up late at night reading Bombawerk. And one of them, I'm convinced that it's just part of the divine providential plan for my sanctification that Matthew Iglesias was put on this earth. And he's a progressive so-called blogger. Now, normally I don't care what these bloggers say. In fact, not only normally, I never care what these bloggers say. But Iglesias, though, the problem is people always forward me his blogs. So anybody in this room, don't do this, okay? Somebody did this to me a couple weeks ago, and I was out of town and I couldn't respond. And it ate away at me for 2 days that there could be someone this ignorant on this planet, and I don't have time to answer him. So Iglesias, for example, again, he's like some 20-something-year-old kid with a psychology degree from Harvard. But because it's from Harvard, he has this Harvard disease that, whereby he thinks, because I went to Harvard, I pretty much know about everything. So I can comment on everything that I've never read a single book about and whatever. And he's not funny, he's not clever, he's got nothing of value to say that I can see. So the standards for left-wing intellectuals are extremely low, but perhaps marginally higher than for right-wing intellectuals, I'm sorry to say. But all the same, Matthew Iglesias, he attacked me a few weeks ago on the grounds that, my book is doing well because I'm pushing a fringe doctrine that tells the right wing exactly what it wants to hear. Yeah, because Newt Gingrich, he's always saying, let's abolish the Fed, right? I mean, we just can't shut this guy up about the subject, right? Keeps on bringing it up. Fed this, Fed that, right? So in any case, all right, so a big deal, all right, I'm happy to be attacked because it gets some attention, that's fine. But now Iglesias, I'm not going to blame him for the comments on his blog. I'm not going to blame him for this. It's not his fault. But, these are the types of people who are attracted to his blog, so it does tell us a little something. So here's Iglesias now. He's got this post, and people are commenting on it. And one person says, and he's sort of speaking in regular American political discourse. He says, this is a commentator who's critical of Iglesias, and he says, liberals really do see every dollar in the U.S. economy as belonging to the U.S. government first. I thought, well, okay, for a traditional conservative, that's a pretty good comment. And here's what one of the commenters replies. Yes, Brad, I, for one, do. So I do see every dollar in the economy as first belonging to the U.S. government. Because who prints the dollar in the first place? Who issues it? And whose collective will imbues the dollar with its value? It's our collective will. So, you see what I'm talking about? And these people, see, it's one thing if somebody is a person of goodwill who is searching for the truth and stumbling. Everybody has been there at some point. All of us, we're all learning. But this is not a person of goodwill. This is a sinister person, right? So I don't mind ridiculing somebody like this. And so it reminds me of what Murray Rothbard said. He said, "It is no crime to be ignorant of economics, which is, after all, a specialized discipline and one that most people consider to be a dismal science. But it is totally irresponsible to have a loud and vociferous opinion on economic subjects while remaining in this state of ignorance." So that's Rothbard, one of the great Austrian economists. Now, I'm also reading among the Iglesias comments that, oh, yeah, I've heard all about this Austrian school. Ho, ho, ho. Yeah, you can pretty much sum it all up on the back of a matchbook. Ho, ho, ho. How? I mean, I think it really drives me crazy, specifically that these people, they think they're smart and clever and everybody else is dumb, when in fact, everything they're saying is 1,000% wrong and they are dumber than a stick. That's what bothers me the most about it. Because they're too ignorant even to know that the mainstream of the history of economic thought teaches that the Austrian school made important contributions to the discipline. Now, then they go on to say that, you know, now we've absorbed those contributions, we don't need the Austrian school anymore. Now, they're wrong about that, but that's very different from saying the Austrian school is totally stupid and unsophisticated and nobody needs it. That's not even what the mainstream of the profession teaches. But these wise guys on these left-wing blogs feel like, oh, Austrian economics, that says government is bad, therefore I must hate it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's the level we're dealing with here. And so they give us replies like this. And again, just critical of the Austrian school without knowing the first thing about it. So my sort of reply, if it was even worth making one, would be, what is it the Austrians are trying to do? They're trying to understand the real world. Oh, no, we can't have that. We need to understand mathematical models instead. We can't have the real world, but that's what the Austrians are trying to do. They're trying to understand, for example, the phenomenon of prices. They're trying to explain the real prices that we encounter in the economy. What they are not interested in are prices in some model of what the economy would look like on Mars, or what the economy would look like in long-run equilibrium, which can never occur. We actually are kind of interested in, you know, real prices, right? So apparently we're not supposed to be? I'm like, what's wrong with that? Like, I would like these people on the Iglesias blog to explain to me what's wrong with that. Why is it better? For example, my friend Tom DiLorenzo was at a job interview for an economics professor, and this would-be professor shows up and gives as his interview lecture, he gives this whole model of the hamburger industry. And Professor Gordon Tullock, a distinguished economist, speaks up and says, well, sir, your model looks absolutely nothing like the hamburger industry. And his answer was, I don't care about the hamburger industry, I care about my model. I mean, this is something I'm supposed to have superstitious reverence for instead of the Austrian school? The Austrian school is teaching real stuff. The Austrian schools, the capital theory, the monetary theory, it is all far more sophisticated and realistic than any of the crazy models we read in the mainstream of the profession. In fact, they've done a study as to how many people read the typical article in the American Economic Review. You have any idea how many people read the typical article? 2.5. No joke. It is so full of impenetrable jargon and math that they have made the journal unreadable. What was once a small cultish part of the economics profession that believed that economics should be like the physical sciences and should be suffused with math, that was a cultish, weird part of the profession. They've now taken it over to the point that nobody even reads the stuff. And so if we exclude the editor and the author of the article, we're now down to half a guy running around reading articles in this thing. And again, I'm supposed to be intimidated by this? Give me a break.